Good evening, everyone. We will start today's class with the Shanti Mantra. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhetamastu ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Last class, we were discussing about Shravana Manana Nididhyasana. After discussing, I realized, so we have been discussing a lot of advanced topics. From a normal man's point of view, these are advanced topics. And then at times I find that the reason for most of the questions is lack of clarity in very simple fundamental things, because there is a way, instinctive way, the natural, whatever we are habituated to, this instinctive way of approaching life situations, which is what they call as the need, drive, goal cycle. You feel a lack, you feel a need, then based on our conditioning, the information available, the knowledge, etc., skill set, etc., we decide a goal that we consider will satisfy this need, and we go ahead. So we have a drive to arrive at the goal. We take the necessary measures and we arrive at the goal, which could be ownership over an object, or a relationship with a person, or attaining a certain social status, or acquiring some knowledge, or enjoyment of a pleasure, that is arriving at an experience, or getting rid of an unpleasant experience. This is all we know. I know myself as a needy person who does things to satisfy the needs as they arise time to time. Now, if you switch off all the spiritual concepts and whatever we have been exposed to, if you go basically at the fundamental level with which we approach life, this is what it is. This is our approach. And very rarely we question myself as the one who is seeking various things. I very rarely question my validity as an individual. Very rarely I question the true nature of myself as an individual. Like what Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi says, who am I? And very rarely we have the mental space to, the intellectual space to question certain very fundamental things that we take for granted. For example, we say, I am happy, I am sad, I am satisfied, I am not satisfied. We use this all the time, but we really don't we don't probe into the nature of this experience, which we express as I am happy, I am sad, I am satisfied, I am not satisfied. No, we don't probe into the nature of this experience. We are very busy. We only know that we are comfortable in this way, we are not comfortable in this way, and we get busy coming back to comfort. No, we are always getting busy coming back to what we call as the happy experience or the comfortable experience, where I am not restless, I am relatively peaceful, where my present moment, where in this present moment, I don't feel pushed, I don't feel challenged, pushed, I don't feel restricted. I'm comfortable with this moment. This is the basic experience we are constantly coming back to. So the moment we become uncomfortable, we are trying something or the other to make ourselves comfortable, to get rid of this discomfort. If I have to put it in other words, to get rid of this discomfort. Now, we don't know as an individual, we don't know anything outside this circle, outside this bubble. We don't know ourselves in any way outside this bubble of this individuality. Have you ever thought about this? You may say Brahman, soul, and all that, spirit and all that. It's all words. Cosmic consciousness, whatever. It's all we read about these things. Have we experienced ourselves in a way is not limited by the individuality? Have we lived a dimension that is outside this individuality? Without this sense of the little limited self, have I experienced life? Some of us would be lucky to say that, oh, there was this overwhelming moment where I was completely, uh, lost in that, and there are these ecstatic moments. Let us say, when you are uh, overwhelmed by something phenomenally beautiful or very, very meaningful and profound and deep. It's like you are, there is something of a great universal value. It overwhelms your heart, and then you lose yourself into it completely, and you are experiencing a kind of a sense of expanded exhilaration, a kind of, which is something like a selfless moment. You can probably experience it in, there are these moments in patriotic moments, or for example, there is a India Pakistan match. This is very fair. Many people can relate to it. I don't, not me, but many people can relate to it. So the World Cup, India winning the World Cup or something like that in the finals, especially with Pakistan, you win and you win a World Cup, cricket World Cup. And there is this moment where you are, there is no you, nothing. You are completely dissolved and you become one with that experience. You totally, your mind becomes one with that, joy or the exhilaration of that moment, with one with that celebration. We become one with that celebration. There is only celebration, that overwhelmed feeling where you are completely taken over. And it is generally accepted that in a very deep experience of sexual ecstasy, it's similar. And also when you go in front of a very divine presence, this is supposed to happen for some people. In a normal worldly experience, each person experiences in different contexts. Maybe if you are lucky, you would have experienced some moment in the life like this where you are completely lost yourself and totally overwhelmed, where you are, it's like an expansion in the heart, and sometimes you get tears, and it's like a combination. It is a happiness, tears and happiness and joy and being overwhelmed, completely taken over, where your individuality does not operate. So there are moments like these expansive moments where you are one with the bhava, what is called as, it's called bhava, the beautiful word bhava. So where the mind is completely one in a bhava, mind, ego, everything is resolved into a bhava. You can, I used to experience this every time when there is when I hear a story or watch a movie or a situation where an individual sacrifices for a higher principle. I analyzed this. So there are these moments when I have experienced, then I analyze the experience. What is the common factor? So I have experienced this when an individual completely sacrifices oneself and one puts a higher principle that is above oneself, any value, any universal value or patriotism or truth. When an individual, puts truth above all self-interest, when puts a higher principle above self-interest and devotes to that completely. So that whenever I see that scene or a story or a description, something describing that, something that portrays this quality, I used to experience this. So each person can analyze and see, there are, except these moments, we don't understand these moments. So what we do is, we don't understand this moment. It's very difficult to understand this moment, but we keep looking for these when you have more moments like this, then we say the life is more meaningful. We feel a sense of a very phenomenal sense of a meaningfulness in life. If you are able to live a life that is in tune with a principle that invokes this overwhelming dissolution of your individuality in something higher than you. It's a way of saying higher than you means higher than you, the individual, the one who is constantly struggling to satisfy the needs that we talked about in the beginning. So more than this, if you are able to, give yourself up and place something more important, something bigger than you as more important than your little self. When you are able to do that in a very instinctive manner, like how I would, when I'm very thirsty or when I'm very hungry, how I would want food or water. At that level, at the organic level, if I am able to give myself up for something bigger than larger than me, because it is overwhelmingly more meaningful than my petty needs, at that time, this experience is there. So this experience, this bhava, is called bhakti, devotion bhakti. Bhakti is not simply just, doing some rituals. All these things might help. Like in a normal, I have seen this. I don't know if energetically it is the same. I have seen people getting completely overwhelmed in rock concerts. I see some videos from the 60s, or some rock star comes and this in those days when I was a school kid, this Michael Jackson, When people attend his concert, they cry and completely overwhelmed. Whatever description you see in Bhagavata Purana or Narada Bhakti Sutra, that kind of exhilaration you can see in those Michael Jackson devotees. See, it's a complete dissolution of the self. That overwhelming thing they feel, that is bhakti actually. So if that bhakti is there in something divine, everything is, don't go to that everything is divine thing now. I'm just telling, it's something that is officially recognized as divine. Let me put it like that. So if it is able to come for a divine representation, that is a revealed divine representation that carries within it the presence of the cosmic intelligence, God, when we are able to feel towards that, or when we are able to feel that kind of devotion to a universal value, to speaking the truth, or to non-violence, karuna, kindness to a suffering living being, these kind of things. So when we are able to feel that, or love, unconditional love that wishes for everybody's welfare, these kind of things. So when we are feeling that experience is the manifestation of this thing, what in Shastra we call as bhakti, bhaja. Bhakti. You dissolve into that. You give up yourself for that. That is bhakti. Hmm? So now that is the benchmark level of bhakti. You give up yourself totally to the higher, to the point of no return. It's called, parabhakti, where there's a point of no return. It's called complete surrender, which they say is the equivalent of enlightenment, jnana. Now, so other than my little struggling individuality, some of us know this kind of experience, where I have experienced a moment of selflessness and complete dissolution of my individuality for something bigger than me, that is more meaningful than me and my little needs. That is there. Now, these are all something that we can relate with. So when we say spiritual life, I am taking to a spiritual life, etc. So what on earth do we mean by that? Why should you take to that? Somehow we got exposed to these ideas, spiritual concepts and all that. We tend to go into an intellectual comfort zone, where if there is suppose say, we hear the spiritual, not all the spiritual information in a haphazard way, not in a systematic study, and we form some kind of opinion based on what is comfortable for us. Am I audible?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
So we go into a kind of a cognitive intellectual comfort zone, and we don't realize that we are in a comfort zone. And when a practical reality challenges my comfort zone, I say, this is my faith, this is what I believe in. So please don't question that. If somebody points out my error in approach, you say, this is my belief, don't question that. You have your faith, I have my faith. Like we choose, like you choose, that is your coffee flavor, this is my coffee flavor. Like that. Or, you have green tea, I have black tea. Like that, we go into a comfort zone, and we do not probe into what is the reality. Like we say, no, I don't believe in, I believe in God. Man, but I don't do any prayer. I don't do any rituals. You know, I don't. I don't do. I'm not religious. This is a common thing we hear. I'm not religious. I was born a Hindu, but I don't practice any Hindu things. I just believe in God, and it's universal and all that. The spiritual, non-religious, we say, right? So, so then the whole thing, when we take it, the spiritual knowledge is a complete package. The whole knowledge with the traditions that support the knowledge, the traditions that empower you to own up the knowledge, and the traditional practices that bridge the gap between knowledge and practice. Your everyday life and the theoretical principles or the philosophy. The whole way of life that helps you to integrate the spiritual wisdom in everyday life. So it's a thousands and thousands of years mastered and perfected by so many tapasvis and rishis and everything. We just say, oh, I don't believe in all that. I just know I believe in God. Okay, so I was talking to a youngster. That person said, oh, I pray. You praise to God. I pray to God before sleeping. I pray to God before doing something. Okay, so what do you pray? How do you pray? Said, oh, yeah. So I said, oh, God, thank you for the food. Great, great. Now, when you say God, what do you mean by that? What is your mind thinking as God? No, when you start going into that, they will realize that there is a lot of gray area that they cannot address, and then they'll go into a comfort zone. They'll say, no, no, no. So this is my thing. So you have your thing. Don't probe too much. Just like how we do everything half baked, this God related things also we do half baked. This is all right. This is all right for a common conversation, because every conversation cannot be a deep probing conversation where you are no, it doesn't have to be like a satsanga every conversation. But it is important to set aside some time like this now, like how we are here discussing, to set aside some, and also by oneself, set aside some time to probe into my conclusions about what is spiritual life and what is my understanding. I need to sit and spend some time about that. I can't keep on being busy like how I am mindlessly busy surviving in the world. I cannot be mindlessly busy under the label of spirituality. We see a lot of people among us, we are mindlessly busy under the label of spirituality. Oh, today is Amavasya, today is some special Amavasya, and then there is Grahanam. Oh, today is Amavasya, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do that. And then, oh, today is Paurnami, I have to do this. Oh, today is Ashtami, this. And then you have all these, Monday, this prayer, Tuesday, that prayer. So you have a list going on, do that. Then there is this Kula Devata, I have to go and visit my Kula Devata. All this is good. I'm not saying no. So there are some things that keeps you busy. And some things we might have picked up in the process of growing up. If somebody is from a Christian background, then they have their own baggage. So if you are from a Hindu background, you have your own baggage. If you are from a Muslim background, you have your own baggage. If you are from an atheist background, then you have that kind of baggage. So each one of us, you don't have a spiritual baggage, but you have a spiritual rejection baggage. So these kind of things, I believe that there is no God, like they will say. That's what one atheist person told me. We believe there is no God. Like how uh, a believer, a theist believes there is a God and has an idea about it. An atheist believes there is no God. So both are just mental constructs. It's a you have taken refuge in an idea, right? So what happens is this, what we call as a world view and all that, how we see ourselves, how we see the world in a very fundamental level, is a philosophy. All of us have a philosophy, whether we are philosophers or not. At a very fundamental level, we do have what is called as a worldview. We do have an abstract level. We do have, each one of us have a way in which we treat the world, the way in which we treat life, the way in which we derive meaning from things, the way in which we see ourselves. And this is there in the background, and while we are rushing through life. So this drives our choices. This pushes us to make choices. So this is there in the background, whether we like it or not, whether we want it or not. And especially if you are a little thinking person, if you are a little conscious person, this makes you restless from time to time. In the middle of my rushing, like how I rush in my survival game, there is a point where I say, okay, enough running. I want to do something that I really enjoy and what I find meaningful. And this Gen Z have this problem. They're always looking for making an impact. So once uh, Sri Ratan Tata was telling this. This guy just comes out of college in 6 months after joining the job. He said he's not satisfied. I asked him why, and he says he's not able to make an impact. And everybody was laughing. Ratan Tata said, after we joined the work, we are 5 years, we clock in 5 years on the shop floor, and we do, that is his exact word. We clock 5 years in the shop floor. We learn some things and see how things are, and then we think about what we need to do. And because we have enough intellectual capital to be able to think of what would be a meaningful impact and all those things, the deeper aspects, right? So it is okay that we are rushing through life, but there is a point up to which we have accumulated some knowledge, we have accumulated some skill, we have accumulated some discipline. Like, once these are there is a time when you start thinking, at least sporadically, though not in a complete way, though not in an integral way, in a deep way, in a continuous way, though not like that, at least sporadically, we do arrive at some kind of a spiritual restlessness. Uh, uh, Sometimes, they say like a crisis of faith. It also happens in career. People make these drastic changes in their career path and things like this. They say midlife crisis and all that. And there are these youngsters who see the lot of things happening around them, and it doesn't make sense. So they want to do something that makes sense and meaningful, because they don't know exactly why it doesn't make sense, and it cannot be done without it. So, and also this is like too much to handle. Sometimes what happens is the noise and the meaninglessness and the chaos is too much to handle. There is a rush to seek comfort, again, like intellectual comfort. Similarly, there is an emotional comfort, something that looks meaningful, and something that looks predictable, and something that looks stable. It appeals to us. When you are in a very chaotic situation, something that looks stable appeals to us in a very unconscious level, in a very deep level, and we think that, then we tend to think it is right. So it is our need for comfort, it is our need for stability, and it is our need for uh, feeling things in place. It is this overwhelming need amidst all the chaos. In this, because of this need, even if something is very dangerous, we overlook that, and we try to go into that simply because it offers some kind of stability and some kind of comfort, immediate comfort. A lot of terrorist recruitment happens like this, especially the terrorist recruitment in Western countries, in liberal democracies. you find a lot of people who get recruited by terrorists. And in most of the cases, it is simply because whoever was the recruiter had offered this person who was brought up in a liberal way where everything is relative. Even your fundamental things like gender is relative. Nowadays, people don't know that they are male or female, and children are forced to get confused about that. The confusion is thrust upon people. uh, uh, this woke ideology and all these things, people feel very unstable, and especially when the hormones are raging in the teenage and in the late teens and all that. It's too much energy, lack of principles and lack of stable worldview. With all that, this terrorism recruiter comes and temporarily offers something that is he is very sure about, because this person is ideologically driven, this person is indoctrinated into an ideology. So this person is exhibiting an air of surety and stability, to which these poor unstable youngsters get attracted. They get attracted to the stability. This is a huge thing. This is what happens even in the right spiritual things. For example, when there is a huge chaos in a society, a great Mahatma comes. you know that's why we have so many philosophies. We have Shankara Advaitam, we have Visishtadvaitam of Ramanujacharya, we have Dvaitam of Madhvacharya. So we have sampradayas that are uh, built around great personalities. Ramakrishna Mat by Swami Vivekananda. So we have these great personalities who inspired movements, and then there are sampradayas and all that, right? So what happened when and they're all very different. Each one is telling different thing. The Madhva Sampradaya tells something else. Shankara Sampradaya tells something else, right? So this happens both in the right positive things and also in negative things like terrorist recruitment. The key point is this: when there is chaos, a very strong individual, in spirituality we call it as tapo balam, somebody with that power of austerity. Power of austerity is nothing but continuous application of mind diligently in a direction where you have channelized all the energies, and because of that the person has a very strong presence and impact among his fellow human beings. Hmm? A powerful mind. So in a given social context, when a powerful mind comes up, it becomes a magnet for all the people around. So people who are unstable, people who have not devoted themselves, people who have not gathered themselves together, they feel an incredible attraction towards this, because that is what they are also seeking unconsciously. Because there is no knowledge, there is an instant attraction towards this stability, towards the kind of certainty that is offered by this, the semblance of certainty that is offered by this great personality's presence, right? So the same logic also works the other way around for wrong things, like terrorism recruitment in liberal democracies, where the people are very completely, in a society with total relativism, moral relativism, and complete instability, lack of values. No, because of all those things, anybody who comes and shows a semblance of certainty and is very devoted to his ideology, it becomes a magnet for all these unstable minds. And then they have to find some fault lines, some personal issues and all that, to hook them up to this to this terrorist movement or whatever. So most of the terrorist recruitment happens like this. So same way, if you see these proselytizing religions, where they are constantly getting more and more converts, this proselytization, this evangelizing, proselytizing, they also do that. They always bank upon some kind of an instability in a community, the fault lines between communities, instability and sorrow and desperation in a family, these kind of things, they will go and tap into that and then offer some kind of stability, and then the person goes behind it. It is something like this, uh, like offering food for a hungry animal. You see an animal, it's a very parched land, like a desert, a lot of famine. You offer some water and some food for some hungry, you see some hungry animal there, you offer some water and some food. The birds come there, and then the goat and all the cattle, they come there. Maybe some wild animals, some monkeys, they come there, they eat that, drink water. It's a great punya karyam. No, it's a very virtuous act. Wonderful. Now it can be done in a good way, or it can also be done by a hunter. So how does a hunter set up his trap? The hunter can also set up a trap. He's also tapping into the same desperation. The hunter is also creating a trap. He throws some grains and all that, and then the birds are coming to eat it. The only difference is the hunter is having a trap underneath the food. The moment the bird comes to peck on the food, it gets caught in the trap. So these evil ideologies and cults and proselytizing cults, they are also tapping into your instability. You are getting inspired by a kind of seeming certainty they offer you, and you go behind that. And great Mahatmas are also appealing to the same thing. You are overwhelmed by a great Mahatma because he has realized a higher principle, and you go, and now you are attracted to that, you are inspired, you become a devotee of that Swami, and you join the satsang and all that, and it helps you. The only difference is the Mahatma who inspires you is really offering food that will nourish you and help you to become free. The tired bird is offered food and water and everything, and it is allowed to fly. That is the case of a Mahatma. What is offered is the same, but the one who is offering is different. But in the case of a terrorist recruiter, in the case of a hunter, he's offering the same food. In the same way, a terrorist recruiter or a proselytizing person, he, preacher or whatever, that person is also offering some kind of stability, some kind of peace, some kind of joy. You go behind that, but it is like a hunter. He has a trap for you to gobble you up. And then after that, you suddenly see, you are completely taken over by that, and you are used by that cult, or you are used by that group or whatever. So you become a resource for them. So you get into a trap. It's like a hunter consuming the bird. It is like the hunter who offers the food, and the animal that is attracted to the food is captured, and it is either converted into a pet, best case scenario, or worst case scenario is cooked and eaten, right? So the same thing happens when in spirituality also. That's what I'm saying. Why this is so? These kind of things, where what happens, whether you are attracted, you are smelling some food, and the animal smells some food and water and is attracted. So whether that animal goes in front of both are happening in the world. In one corner of the forest, there is a kind person who comes and offers food and water genuinely out of love and compassion. In another corner of the forest, there is a hunter who has spread his net, snare, and also is offering food and water. Where you end up depends on your punya. That's what our tradition says. Your good karmas. If you have enough good karma, it will take you to the true kind person who wants to see you happy. If you don't have enough punya, you will end up you will get food, but you will end up in the snares of the hunter. Which side of the forest you will end up, where you will feel attracted, where you will feel drawn to as an unconscious person, as a person who is rushing through life, as a person who is rushing through spirituality without looking into the fundamentals, without investigating into the basics of why I am seeking what I am seeking. If you just go on rushing unconsciously, it is the punya that takes care. If you have enough punya, you will end up with the right teaching. If you don't have enough punya, you will end up with the some fake gurus or some cults or some God forbid, some terrorist group recruiter. You know, so it becomes very important to investigate the seeker in me, the fundamentals of seeking. It becomes very important to understand the fundamentals of spiritual knowledge, just like how, nowadays they are telling us to read the label. So, when you buy food products or when you buy cosmetics, they ask you to read the label. Please read the label. Does it have dimethicone? That is have, what they call as these parabens and all that. Now it becomes a fashion. No parabens, no dimethicone, no sulfates. Then you go and see inside there are something else that is replacing this. No sugar. Oh, you will not put it. But what is inside? Aspartame. That is worse than sugar. no? So then slowly we educate ourselves, and we know you become an expert in reading labels, or at least you go and ask a friend, dude, can you read that label and tell me? You are the chemistry guy, so can you please tell me which one is good? Can you check the label and tell me? At least you outsource the knowledge, like that. It is very important when you are in a spiritual quest. There is no compromise. At some point of time, I will have to arrive at the habit. I will have to develop the habit of proper investigation into the nature of spirituality, proper investigation into the nature of my seeking. What exactly am I seeking? Proper investigation into the nature of myself as the seeker. And while I am doing this, I will have to do some japa, some charity, some good. So all that will gather me punya. So, always coming in the presence of divine, going to some temple and doing all my, whatever I am rushing through in my spiritual life, according to our tradition. Any tradition in the Vedic Sampradaya will do. Because Vedic Sampradaya has the reputation, it's established as a non-hunter. Vedic Sampradaya, this Hindu tradition, the Sanatana tradition, has enough information and openness and has a reputation for giving all the spiritual knowledge without any holding back and making it available for everybody, and has a track record. Right? It never has gone and aggressed on any other culture. We have all this history, and we have all the Mahatmas who are living around, and we have the vibration, all around this country with so many tapasyas and so many tapasvis and so many holy places and all that. So we can use all that to make sure that we stay on the right side of the forest, where when my punya becomes enough, like how the animal will come in front of the kind person who is offering food in a famine. So in the famine of my struggle, my punya will take me to the right teaching, to the right teacher, to the right satsanga, etc. So for that we need punya. So it is important to devote some of our time in all the punya karyams, in virtuous acts, living a life of virtue. So if you don't know all the spiritual tech, it's okay. It is enough to gather, even if you live a life of simple virtue based on common sense, speaking the truth, committed to non-violence, practicing kindness, uh, practicing charity, sharing your wealth. These kind of things, dhanam, yajnam, dhanam, tapas, they say, right? So being a contributor, a selfless, being a genuine contributor where you contribute without expecting anything in return, without a personal motive, without an ulterior motive. You make it a habit to contribute for causes, and you make it a habit to devote some energies for collective welfare. You make it a habit to never speak a lie, to speak a truth in an acceptable manner. You make it a habit to stay committed to non-violence. So these kind of things, when we do, what happens? We gather enough punya, if not in this life or in some other life, some kind of intervention, divine intervention, will make sure that you will not end up in the snare of the hunter. and you will end up, I'm being metaphorical, you will end up in the right side of the forest where you get the nourishment without negative consequences. Similarly, you will get spiritual guidance without, the real genuine spiritual guidance will take us toward genuine real freedom. So this is the basic some of the thoughts that I wanted to share regarding some fundamentals in our approach to spirituality. So I did not want to go into too many jargons, and so I wanted to attack this very basic concept. So it is important not to rush through spirituality like how we rush through survival. Uh, it is important to understand why we are doing what we are doing, and who am I as a seeker, what am I seeking. So please let us all devote some time for these investigations, for these analysis, and maybe some discussions, and arrive at more clarity. Yeah. So with this, I will open the floor for some questions, and we will take it further from there, if we can, in this session or in the next class. If anything has struck a chord with you, if anything has touched you at some level in what we discussed, you can share that. And if it has provoked some thought in you, you can share that. The main point is to understand that it is in a forest affected by famine. There is also the good guy in one corner, and there is also the hunter in another corner. It's extremely important to understand this. That as a an animal cannot understand. It is not capable, but we as humans, we are capable. It is important to know that there are hunters. It is important to know that danger can come in any form. It can also come in the guise of spiritual wisdom. It can also come in the guise of a guru. That we have seen enough. We have seen enough exploitations within the so-called religious and spiritual domain also. So it is very important to not say all are one, all are same, and everything is each faith is equally valid. It is not so. A hunter is a hunter. A kind person who feeds the animals for their welfare is a kind person. A kind person and a hunter are completely different. Even though both may appear to offer food and water, they are fundamentally different. So it's the same thing when we come in our spiritual quest, and it is very, very important to understand this difference, and very important to understand that such a difference does exist. So that is the main point I wanted to say. So, and this understanding is important for the correct kind of Shraddha. I have one message here. Let me see. Last question was, what is spiritual life?
That was related, connected with the question you asked, like before it was not.
Right. What is spiritual life? Did I answer that in any way? We are probing into that. We are going into that gradually. So what we will continue. It's a little. Let us see if I it got muted after. Right. Okay. But did I address it after that? Did I address it in any way after that? After it got unmuted or not? You're going into that.
Anyway,
The
as
next
you said,
classes also will be on that. Thank you. Thank you for pointing it. I thought somebody will tell on the voice, and I was waiting for a voice. Now I see the message. No problem. Right. Now I got another message. Okay. So we will probe into that, and we will go more into the we did see some points about what is the nature of spiritual life. We talked about bhakti. We talked about experiencing something that is bigger than myself, dissolving in something that is bigger and larger than myself, more meaningful than my individuality as a consumer, as a seeker, something bigger than me as the individual, something beyond my bubble of individuality. So let us start with that as a working definition of spirituality, and we will explore more into this and the different aspects of it in the coming classes. So with this, I will conclude my session. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vadishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Thank you.
Henry, thank you.